Hall Space Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show. Hey, everybody.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the show.
New listeners, welcome.
Yes, welcome everybody. This is the Hall Space Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall, and I'm here with my lovely and capable wife, Nicole.
Hey there.
Hey, and we are here post-election, finally, after a week-long election.
Ooh, yeah.
Election results took a while to come in. It was not so evident a victory.
No, it took a while for mail-in ballots to be counted, and they're actually still in a process of counting
in certain places. Yes,
overseas ballots.
I feel like Nevada still might not be in.
Nevada, y'all, guys.
Yeah, it was definitely one for the ages. In that, a lot of people were really hoping that there would be a president elected on election night.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us were hoping that, but we kind of knew because of the way the ballots worked with mailing them in that it would probably not happen. Right?
Yeah.
Because what I didn't understand before election night was that people voted early. A lot of people did mail-in ballots, but they weren't going to count them.
Well, quite a few states refused to count them until the election day. Yeah.
Right, which is like...
What's interesting about that is those were all states with Republican
governors,
Republican people in charge of the electorate.
Yep.
Like, so what's been happening over the past decade or so was that Republicans were taking over local politics.
Right.
And so when you hit a place like this, and that's why it's been very interesting as, you know, the former president, 45, when he's complaining about it being fixed, he's actually complaining about his own base.
Right.
Because in those states, like the states that are flipping, like Georgia and Pennsylvania, Republicans have traditionally run those states.
Right.
So those are Republican people in charge of the ballot counts.
Right. So
when that, you know, the guy in Philly's like, he needs to put his big boy pants on and accept the thing.
Right.
That's a Republican saying that.
You know, the interesting thing about Philly was that they kept interviewing them and they're like, we're in the process of counting the ballots. We have a live stream that you can look at. We are in the process of counting ballots. Right. There's a live stream. You know? They were just focused on,
look, we're trying to do the job.
We're trying to do the job. And they're like, well, what about the ballots that are set aside? We are in the process
of counting all the ballots. Yes, they were not gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, what could they say ultimately?
Yeah. No,
other than it's in progress. I mean, and we're we want things now culture.
We do.
Even part of me is like, I don't know, just digitize all of them. But even I know from a personal experience, if you've ever had to digitize your own photo collection, that takes forever.
It's a lot of work. And because it's so incredibly important, right? You want to be accurate.
Yeah.
So you imagine that these guys are double and triple and quadruple checking their work. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're digitizing like your photos, right, they're really important to you because that's what you have left of some people. Right. They're of who they are. Right.
It's the last piece of, so an interaction or a moment.
Yeah. It takes longer than, you
want to be precise. You want to be
thorough.
Careful.
You do.
And so I get every impression that this has been a careful and thorough process.
Yeah.
And Republicans stacked the decks against themselves in this regard because
he told them
not to mail in.
So these ballots ain't free. It's not for
the mail-in ballots, the last-minute ballots ain't him. It's those of us in the Democratic Party or you know who align with the Democratic Party. I didn't vote early, but many of my friends and family did.
A lot of the people that we know did
because they wanted to avoid the crowds on election day.
Right, and where we vote from where we live is typically a really quiet.
Yeah,
you get in and you get out sort of thing. And I personally, I wanted to do a mail-in ballot, but I felt like I don't want y'all messing with my mail-in ballot. So let me just go ahead and go in person. You know, there's something about getting up on that day, going in.
It's another one of the downsides of his plan here. His plan has always been obfuscation because, you know, nobody can know that you're really incompetent if you just make them distrust everything. That means they either only have to trust you, or even if you mess up, they can distrust the people reporting that you're messing up. So he kind of placed himself in a corner because he made people not trust the democratic process. And by virtue of that, now his fans who adore him, who love him, are like believing the hype that the system can't be trusted. And whenever you get into
but you trusted the system 4 years ago though, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's the same system, y'all.
But when you're that type of person, you can set up if it's not me, then it's obviously no one. And that's essentially the mental attitude he's brought into this. If I don't win, then it's a fraud. Which is, once again, what happens when you set up psychologically for people to begin believing that you're the only person who could save them.
Possibly be in charge that could really help you.
No.
And
it sets him up for, you know, nothing but, looking like, you know, that's one of the things I would say about this experience in total the last 4 years. Like, I know that white America can be obtuse. I know that America as a country is capable of being very flawed and unable to self-reflect.
Correct.
I know that because, hey, we owned people for like 400 years.
Humans.
So full humans. We started the democratic process of creating this nation while having a host of people in bondage and exploiting as many people as we could. And even the very land we stand on was owned by someone
subhuman
that we decided to just shift to the left until we couldn't get rid of them any further because they were inconvenient to the democratic process. So we built this nation on blood and the bones of the people we discard.
Well, and I think the interesting thing about that, you know, people are like, this is not what we're about, actually.
And it's like, absolutely what we're about.
Actually,
as a nation, this is where we always go. And so, you know, the last 4 years has been this very weird, like, oh no, I thought modern society could escape some of these things. Like, you're not supposed to be able to say they're all rapists, but some of them are good people. You're just not supposed to be able to say
you're
that.
You're not supposed to be able to say shithole countries.
In the 2000s.
Right? You're not supposed to be able to mock mentally handicapped people. You're not supposed to be able to say grab them by the...
We slowly but surely tried to bake these things out of society, but I learned...
brought it all back.
Humans we're very tribal creatures. We're still animals in that way. And so we like to think of ourselves as civilized. But in reality, if you leave us to it, we're going to pick up a rock and try to smash the next guy's head open. Because we don't trust him and we want more stuff than he has. Like, that's just where our fundamental problems always go back to. These cavemen, we cycle back to our cavemen roots. Because it's just difficult for us. You know, the very first sin, we go back to this. I want something. I want my pride to be answered. I want, to expand myself at the cost of another. And America always built on that. Like, anytime, we built up a mythology, and America's big on its mythology. But in reality, it means ignoring the people whose very backs you have to stand on to lift yourself up.
Now, here's what I'll say about that. I do believe that there are people in their gut that are like that. Like, I'm about my circle, my bubble, and I will protect and build it at the expense of anybody. But I do believe that there are a lot of us that grow and change and move and are not like that, right?
There are a lot of us that are not, but unfortunately...
And those people have spoken.
There is but the other part of this is, he won by 5 million votes, but there were, 71 million people who did not look at our current situation and said, oh, this is too much. They never so long as they got their needs met, they never cared.
As long as it does not affect them, correct.
It never cared that there were brown people, that there were women, that there were immigrants, that there were people in this country feeling consistently disenfranchised, feeling hurt, feeling broken by this system. They never cared. They were like, that's bad for you and all, but
bummer.
I feel like my taxes are still doing okay. So, and I would really hate for some babies to die. So I'd much rather have the guy who's an unrepentant a-hole most of the time if it means my side wins.
Right. Which just doesn't...
And
it doesn't serve you, because if you fall out of what he considers to be important to him, it can happen to you
Isn't that fundamentally always the issue with any bully? You always wonder. I always wondered in the movies, why would the guys follow the bad guy until you see this sort of thing unfold in real life, and you're like, oh, they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So they're totally fine, putting skulls on their costumes on their uniforms, so long as they're with the guy who's in charge and who's
and then they believe it won't happen to them, and that therein is the lie.
Right.
Therein is the lie. It absolutely can and will happen to you.
Human beings love being a part of something.
They do. And I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing.
We're hurting creatures. It is when you're following the guy who's out to hurt people.
There is, yes. No. It's definitely.
Then it's like, oh, no, wait.
It's definitely.
We should stop here.
No. There's definitely, it's definitely a bad thing when you're a part of a group of people that are willing to hurt another group of people for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Right.
There are very few reasons where we should tolerate that as a society.
But as a society, though, it isn't most of our struggle with this whole COVID thing the fact that we really want to be with our people. We want to be around people. We want to connect, right? It's about connections. See what I did there?
Look at you bringing it back.
Oh, but right. I mean, there are during this time in my timeline, in my Facebook timeline, there are people that I used to work with that I am they're connected, and they get the situation and they understand it, and they reach out to me every so often to say that they understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And they see, the way things have happened, and that they, at the very minimum, empathize with the struggle that we have had. Van, he during the, was it on CNN? He spoke out about how he felt about Biden being elected, and he had an emotional breakdown and on everything.
Aww.
He represented so many of us and how we've been feeling all this time. And he said it's a good day. It's easy to be a parent today, is what he said. It's easy to be a parent. It's easy to say that character matters, that being a good person matters, and for someone who has kids, it is so hard to explain Trump's actions.
Yeah.
Right.
I said this before, like our kids were actually actively watching the debates.
They're into it
on their own. Like
Definitely
they decided to watch it on their own. And Richie has very strong feelings about Donald Trump.
Game.
To the point where we had to tell him, you can't go saying these opinions everywhere because,
he'll say it in his class.
Right. He will go on a tear about Donald Trump, which we have our feelings about it. We've had
family
discussions about it.
But
he established his own opinion about it.
Yep. And he will speak out about it.
And he will speak out.
He did it at church.
About it. He said that to me last night while I was driving him, and he said, I like to care for people who are forgotten and alone.
Oh man.
And that, that's been his character. And I definitely resonate with that as a person who does the job I do. It's like,
such a beautiful soul.
Yeah, he is.
Jesus.
He in many ways so pure. Like he's capable
so
of anger.
pure.
He's multifaceted for sure.
He definitely has impulse control issues, but my goodness, his soul is beautiful. And I pray to God that
nobody ever breaks that.
Ever loses that.
That's always the thing we have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Please no one break our son.
Well, so
as a young black man. And that was sort of the thing that the Van Jones was saying. And I have feelings about Van Jones that run a little deeper than he gets this moment. Mm-hmm. Van Jones tends to occasionally be problematic. He's a centrist. And so sometimes he's problematic because he's willing to talk to the other side in a way.
Yes.
That right now the rhetoric around, once again, if we go back to our tribalism, it becomes problematic that he's been involved in writing some things for Donald Trump, and he's got some pictures with him, like he's been in the White House with
which is why his breakdown to me was so interesting. That's because I am aware of some of the things that he's done and he said, and I was very, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I get it, but he really kind of stepped out there, and for him, maybe it's a bit brave, considering all of the things that you know.
Yeah, I appreciated it. You know, I can appreciate when you learn the error of your ways, basically.
Absolutely.
And when you recognize that, okay, I've got these thoughts and feelings, but they don't always match up. And that sometimes, you know, I'm a centrist, so I'm definitely in the vein of we can't expel the other side. I was listening to a talk today. Larry Wilmore was talking to a guy, and I could put that in the show notes. The thing, and he was like,
we'll put the Van Jones in there as well.
Yeah. That young people often want what they want their side or nothing at all. They go very all or nothing.
Right.
As they approach some of this stuff. And that's often a difficult position to take because Black people in general have learned that we have to compromise to get any fraction of what we want.
Right.
Because America often isn't willing.
Bubble.
Yeah. America often isn't willing to give us everything we want.
No, we've got to be able to,
you know,
take what we can get and build upon it.
Right. So we've always gotten like 3/5 of the justice we actually deserve. Right. You know, and which is sad.
It is incredibly sad.
But that's the America we've always grown up in. And so it's very interesting. These, you know, this current generation, which is a lot more active and a lot more savvy.
Absolutely.
They're very much a burn it down if it doesn't give us anything we want. And, you know, old people traditionally tend to be conservative in that sense of, oh, no, don't go too far. Like nobody's going to listen if you go too far.
Yeah.
And that's an old rhetoric, but you also can't be so about what you want in the face of a nation, because it is one of the things that liberals and progressives get wrong. There are so many of us under this umbrella that we have to compromise because there are just so many different interests.
There are, and there has to be a middle ground, because you're never going to please everybody.
Yes.
But to refuse to find a middle ground at all is toddler behavior.
Right. Well, I mean, but here's the thing about the other side. And when we talk liberals and conservatives, it's like liberals tend to have everybody under their umbrella. So that means they gotta, you know, really get a lot of agendas unified, and each agenda has been marginalized for so long that they just struggle to find, one, a voice to articulate what their needs are, and two, the ability to, the willingness after so long of being downtrodden to say, okay, we're going to keep
and to keep that.
And then the other side has this unified, they get to call themselves the Great American Party, the Make America Great Again Party, the America, because they're using whiteness as a blanket identity.
Right. But what about the Black people that are also using that whiteness as their identity? Here's the thing about
racism.
The Candace Owens.
Here's the thing about racism that most people who don't have any nuanced or understanding of racism, that's why it's often hard to have these conversations with your average person, because I've studied this now for 20 years, and other people walk into the conversation in 5 minutes and they're like, I think it's this way, and you're like, no, there are actually books written about this. So when it comes to racism, if we're talking either systemic or even just let's just talk about, most people assume antebellum racism, which is, you call them the niggers and them the whites, and you treat the niggers differently.
Water fountain.
Right. But systemic racism, modern racism, more subtle, more nuanced,
right,
more underlying. Right. So Black people can be racist. Just because a Black person says it doesn't mean it's right. They often are drinking the Kool-Aid that is white supremacy in America. So they have a worldview that's based on whiteness and not necessarily this multicultural worldview. They often have a very limited and simplistic understanding of it.
And what's interesting about the fact that there are Black people that can be racist, it is also true because there are African Americans, because they've made it to a certain position, have the ability to change your life. They could give you the job or don't give you the job. They can judge you based on who you are.
You're still in the system.
Yes.
So because you ascend, it's often easy to forget what it's like. And you start to, there is something to be said for, the more power you have, because America has a class problem as well as a race problem, and they're so intertwined that it's often hard to unravel them.
But everybody hates poor people.
In America, yes. Yeah. Because it's obviously your fault.
Clearly, you're lazy.
You have a character problem.
You're the one getting all the free stuff.
Poverty is a character problem.
Right. That's the narrative that
America loves success, and we will reward success with more success and make it easier for the successful, but we will make it harder for the poor, even though we're a nation of poor people. If nothing else, the pandemic proved we are a nation of people on credit.
Yeah.
Like businesses folding left and right.
Yeah.
People being evicted left and right.
Yeah.
America is a house of cards.
Well,
built on a shaky tabletop.
Correct.
And the wind's blowing.
And correct. And interestingly enough, there are people, because of COVID, they're lost their jobs or their businesses are going down, that probably voted for Trump this time.
Oh, absolutely voted for Trump.
They were hoping that he would fix their business or give them more money.
Any dude who says if I get elected again, then you'll get your second stimulus ain't out for you.
You gotta come closer than that.
Yeah. Gotta be quicker than that.
Gotta be quicker than that.
Yeah.
That's I mean,
and so when he rolls out these BS platinum plans and second stimulus, it's like, dude, if you were about the nation as a whole, it shouldn't be do for you, do for me. It should be we all need to lift each other up. But that's what we all know what having a bad boss is like. He doesn't care how you do it, just do it. He doesn't care if you're sick or dying. I expected you to work on Monday. Are you coming in on Monday or Monday or not? Is that going to be turned in on time or not?
I understand you were in a car accident. Bummer. However, your shift starts at 8:30.
Right. And so, your mom died of this thing that I failed to protect her from.
So
because
sad.
He has some responsibility. Maybe not the whole responsibility, but as the nation, which is supposed to turn itself into gear when things happen, he maintains a level of responsibility for our numbers being higher than any other developed nation.
Other country. And honestly, let's talk about that. It baffles me too. And let's talk about this. He had the opportunity during this year alone. He could have been, I think he's a crappy guy. Let me just put that out there.
Crappy individual, crappy president, crappy businessman.
All of it. Yeah. The whole person, just throw him away. But he had an opportunity this year to save all of that by looking at this situation that we're in right now. If he had been able to
overcome this, he would have won. Yes. If he had been able to overcome COVID, he'd be getting a second term without question.
Yes. I believe that. But I'm looking even more further pie in the sky, right? I'm looking at, COVID's happened. We need to review how schools work, how jobs work, how healthcare works, how all of that works. And we have to be able to, I get it. We still need to be able to keep our industries going. We still need to be able to go to work and all that kind of stuff. He could have enacted some things this year.
He could have enacted so many things.
He could have made a change that enabled us to not be brought down by a pandemic.
They got Amy COVID Barrett.
She's got 2 years.
Yeah, Amy COVID Barrett. He got Amy COVID Barrett in. They got her in 3 days, which tells you that if they wanted to solve problems, they could solve problems.
Listen, how many lawsuits has he done in the last week? How many? So many, right?
So many.
So you couldn't put a lot of executive orders in place so that people don't have to decide from working or saving their lives or saving their kids' lives.
They gave the military like $700 billion, bruh.
Oh my God, are we even in war right now?
No.
I mean, we're fighting with countries.
But honestly, most of them want us out.
Listen,
quite a few of them.
Listen, there are countries celebrating right now.
Right. That he is no longer president.
Paris.
I think
you know how bad you have to be.
I think it's interesting that, in that great karmic balance, in the universe, what you put out, you get back. And he spent a lot of time ignoring the will of the minorities and just telling himself, anytime someone says, and I tweeted this out at the time, anytime somebody ever tells me they're the least racist person ever, I struggle. I'm like, oh no, you're now the most racist person I've ever met. Because you once again lack the understanding of racial nuance. White people hate the idea of being racist. We've done a really good job with stigmatizing racism. Yeah. They hate the idea of being racist. They often treat it as a characterological flaw and not a behavioral flaw. And which makes it difficult for them to understand how they may behave in racist ways, even if they can't withhold the label of being a racist individual, which makes it more difficult to seed out, because then they could do something tacitly racist and never have to own up to it, because they could just say, well, I'm not racist in my heart. So what I did was never intended to be racist. And so I don't have to change my perspective or outlook.
Your intentions are one
Intentions
thing.
matter.
Your actions
matter.
Well,
and I never intended to be racist, so it wasn't racist.
No. That's not the point.
Zero sum.
But if I come
Zero
to you,
sum.
if I say to you,
if there was no intention, there was no racism.
No. That's not how that works. If I tell you that is a racist thing and that you should not do it.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't listen.
And like with so many things, it's like there are people who study these things. If nothing else, that's why COVID has become such a phenomenon, because there are things that people study. The people that study this tell you how it works. Whiteness makes it difficult to understand what it doesn't understand. It would love to just ignore the things it doesn't understand, and as a result, act as if there could be no consequence. There's no consequence for me, so there's no consequence.
Yeah, that's not true.
And I haven't seen the consequence, so I don't think it exists.
No. And if there's any time that you do something, there's a consequence.
Nope.
Whether it be a good or whether it be bad.
No.
Whether it be now or whether it be later.
Manifest destiny, Nicole. I'm always intended to get what I want. I deserve what I want.
No. And deserve's got nothing to do with it.
I deserve what I want.
No, that's not.
I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
You're singing the wrong song.
No, I know I'm free.
No, what you should be singing is na 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 na.
Hey, goodbye. It's been fun to watch all the liberals and progressives and the centrists be happy and enjoy the moment, and I think people really should continue to enjoy. I hope that joy lasts. I thought it was a sad downside that 2020 reminded us. 2020 came back and forth.
2020 was like, I'm back. I know you guys got Biden.
So I'm going to just go ahead and take Alex Trebek.
I'm going to let him finish. But I'm going to take Alex
Trebek in the morning.
Just to remind you how crappy this year
Enjoy is. Last night, but
I'm going to let him
death
finish.
Death comes for Alex Trebek this morning.
I know you got the first African American female vice president.
Yeah.
I'm verklempt.
Yeah.
She is me, I am her. She is my daughter.
Yeah.
She is my nieces. This is...
daughter of immigrants. She represents...
Daughter of immigrants, biracial.
She's a person we've met before.
We
her
know
personally,
her.
But yeah,
we know
her type.
We know her. Yeah, we know her.
And she still, the thing is, she still has to prove to us that
she will do what she will do
her job. We're still going to hold her accountable.
We're going to hold Biden accountable as well.
That's the thing. They said,
absolutely.
We don't, I don't necessarily deify, I think, and a lot of liberals and progressives don't deify. We tend to.
But I think that the other side thinks that because we're Democrats that we do. And it's not
because
true.
That's what they do.
That's exactly what they do.
That's
they
why
vote
all
Republican.
Of their
they
biggest,
vote red no matter what. No matter what he did.
Questlove said it on his podcast today. The Questlove Supreme podcast had an interesting episode with Joy Reid. I do recommend that episode.
Joy Reid.
Yeah. She spoke very highly about a lot of the things going on, and Fonte Coleman, friend of the show, and Questlove said,
big fans.
Yeah. Said that Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line, and it's like, yeah,
sounds about right.
Because it's very often that we're scrambling, we're looking around, we're trying to figure out who's going to be our guy at the top.
Mm-hmm.
I said this to Nicole when Biden was on his way to becoming the guy, and when we were waiting on the results and it looked like it was going to be him. I always forget what America needs until I start to see it. It's like, oh, I guess whiteness needed a centrist, old white man to help them feel better about Trump.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't have taken a progressive leftist. White people just can't. And we'd love for them to be further along. We deserve better.
We would love to have.
But we're not going to get our utopia.
We would love to have people that would be willing to accept a Bernie Sanders, man.
Yeah.
Right? We would love we would have loved to have them accept a woman, Hillary Clinton,
Yeah.
Yes.
White women voted against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but you know what? Listen.
White women could have tipped the scale.
Can I just say this?
You wanna give thanks and honor to God, who is the head of your life, before you say this?
First, giving thanks and honor to God. I know that He's created us all and He loves us all, but
equally.
White women can be attributed to the downfall of a lot of things.
Well, I mean, white people can be contributed to the downfall of a lot of things.
I'm talking about white women right now.
Yeah, well, they get it honest.
They listen. I know, but
they vote the way their husbands want them to vote.
Y'all, I fell down the scary mommy comments because scary mommy, I love them they're on Facebook, and I love that they were so incredibly proud. They supported, Kamala Harris being elected, and they're so excited that, our daughters have someone to look up to, and that our sons know that it is possible for girls to also hold that position. And they were just kind of having a celebratory post about it. And so many Kool-Aid drinking. I hate to talk. You do it. You're like, white boys are crazy. I hate to say it, but some of these women.
I don't love to say things that I know for a fact are, you know what I mean? I know it's problematic. But
yeah. I don't
and white people will be like, well, that's racist. And it's like, yeah, it is kind of, because I do know I'm stereotyping. But
yes,
I know I'm also talking about the majority culture, which they can handle. I'm not punching down.
Yeah, no. You're definitely absolutely not. No.
And there are certain things you could say about black people that I'm gonna go, ooh, you shouldn't say that. But I will say, oh, no. It's hard not to stereotype. The brain needs stereotypes. It needs shortcuts.
Well, we need to put things in boxes so that we understand it better.
Right.
But I tell you what, there have been a number of white women in this feed and in the comments and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a whole Karen's Gone Wild page that I follow. That's just, women behaving badly, but just it supporting your own suppression, oppression. Just
I mean, if you think about some of the traditions of whiteness and white womenness, you want to think that they were all suffragists out in the streets,
you do,
protesting for their vote, but they were not.
They're not.
In that same way that they weren't all abolitionists either.
You're absolutely right.
There were some of them who thought they deserve rights and they deserve, to be in charge. And there were quite a few of them who were like, quit making trouble for the rest of us.
Quit making trouble. And those are
my husband told me I can't vote for this.
Those are the women that I'm speaking to and or speaking about.
You think they're listening to you?
Absolutely not.
You said speaking to, and they don't listen to you.
They're not listening to us. Absolutely not. Those are the kind of women that I am speaking about. But let me say this too. I also have, and it's going to sound bad. I have white friends too. But there are women that get it, that understand it. The Ruths of the world, right? That are like, no. No. We are women. We're just as good as you. We need to be able to enact change. We need to be represented. We need to be seen, all of that kind of stuff. And so it just always baffles me when anybody is willing to, and this goes for everybody, especially the Republicans, the poor white people, y'all, Trump is not talking to you. He's not talking to you.
He is actually, if you love him.
No,
he loves you if you love him.
He doesn't love you. He loves himself.
He loves you if you love him.
He doesn't love you. He loves himself. Think about this. He's got a son. How many times have you seen him out with his son, just hanging out with him? How many times did you see Barack out with their dogs and his two daughters, taking them to proms?
He didn't want to do any of those humanizing things. That's not who he is. And to be honest, they don't care if he's that or not.
They should care.
Why should they care? Why should they? Why should they care about these trappings?
He's a father.
Is he?
I mean,
he's got his kids around. Somebody said on Twitter today that they saw how many Bidens there were and they were like, oh wow, that's a lot of them. But then they realized wait, he will never put any of them in charge of government, so I don't have to worry about them having unyielding levels of power. That's right. Because that's how the government's supposed to work. He's broken so many institutions.
He's broken so many institutions that he himself has complained about.
Yeah.
That he himself has
that's why you
about.
Can't trust a guy like that. A guy who's constantly duplicitous.
You cannot. He's got two faces and he'll show you the one that works at the time, right?
Yeah. I'm noticing the time. Speaking of at the time.
Okay.
We are in need of a break. Okay. So we're going to take a break for a second, pause for the cause, let you hear a few commercials, and then we will be right back.
See you soon.
So let me tell you about Anchor Podcast. It's the podcasting service that I use. Anchor.fm is the easiest way to make a podcast, and there are many different reasons why, but foremost is it's free. So you don't need to go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment. If you have a phone or a computer and a microphone, you can record and edit your podcast right on your phone or computer. So that's one major benefit, as well as the fact that they'll distribute your podcast to several different podcasting sites for you. Not only can your podcast be found on Anchor, it can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast as well. So you don't have to worry about going to all those different sites and setting yourself up. They'll do it for you. You can also make some money on your podcast. Say you have a podcast that only 5 people listen to on a regular basis. They don't limit you on how many subscribers you have to have in order to be able to make a little bit of change for your podcast to keep yourself going. So pretty much everything you need to start a podcast can be found at Anchor.fm. So go download the app either in the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, or go to Anchor.fm to get started. And I guarantee you, it'll make things so much easier for you, like it has for me.
And we're back.
Hey there.
Hey. So, welcome back to the Hall Space Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall. And my lovely and capable wife, who's riding alongside me, is
Nicole Hall. Hey there.
Hey. And we are here talking about the newly elected, as projected by all the news outlets. It has not been necessarily made official. He's not inaugurated or anything. But it's pretty much a given right now.
President-elect.
That he is president-elect by all reputable sources.
Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
Right.
And I could not be prouder.
Yes. I mean, I feel like, as I said before, people should really enjoy their joy about it. I do know, hey, there's still work to be done.
No. There's still counting votes. There's still lawsuits that 45 is putting forth. All of that stuff has to be worked out, and he's gonna go ham for like a month. He's gonna the next 2-3 months is gonna be him. He's gonna go ham,
full ham,
the entire season of Thanksgiving and Christmas. Absolutely,
all the way into January, until they drag him out kicking and screaming. And I want to be honest, with the COVID numbers being what they are, if you are a person who is at risk, no help is coming from on high from the government for at least the next 3 months. He's going to be under no obligation to help anyone but himself.
Not that he was helping you before. He already said, if you want this second stimulus, then you need to put him in office. He's already said that. He wasn't playing with y'all.
So this is very much a batten down the hatches.
I was surprised we got the first one.
Let's get some things together. You're going to have to protect yourself for at least the next 3 months, and then we can hope that the Biden-Harris government will put some things in place that maybe can protect the American people.
We're going to hold them accountable. We're going to hold them accountable, and we're going to continue to enact change and fight the good fight and get into some good trouble, in the words of John Lewis. Right?
Yeah.
All of that is important. Another interesting thing about protecting yourself in this time is that there were so many people talking about making sure that we protect the president. I remember when Obama was.
I spent 8 years of Obama afraid he was going to be assassinated.
We were terrified. We were especially when he first got elected. Like, he got elected that night. It was, he won hands down, right? And then we all ponied up. We got into a van and we drove down up to Washington.
We attended the inauguration.
And he's just walking out freely, and I'm like, please don't shoot him. Please don't kill him.
Yeah, there was this fear. I mean, because we know how America has treated us, and once again, it's baked into our mythology.
History predicts future behavior.
That if we go too far, they're going to try to murder us. And he was among, he received the most death threats out of any president ever before.
Clearly, yeah.
And
he was the least problematic out of all of the presidents.
Yeah, it's interesting. Once again, he never he didn't really come for a lot of people.
but he was always painted as this monstrous figure. And once again, you can sort of look at American mythology as to how they were able to just sort of denigrate and, insult him and his legacy. And I'm not saying he was the best person ever in the world. And, there's only one Jesus.
I'm going to go out and say that he was the best president ever.
He was among the best presidents we've had, but he's
the best ever.
Well,
I'm going out there on a limb and saying it.
Okay, you can feel free to say best modern president.
That's what I'm going with.
If you'd like.
I'll stand on that. One God.
Yeah.
Also,
he did get a type of universal health care started, which is going to take like 2 or 3 more generations to move that ball down the road in America. But
yes, but in addition to that, despite all that he's gone through, he's maintained being a decent human being, right? How many extramarital affairs did Donald Trump have?
How
much time
before he was president? The thing they always throw at you, but that was before he was president. So
he's still the same guy.
Absolutely, but that's not what they believe.
Yeah, but he loves his Obama, loves his girls. You haven't seen really Trump with his son Barron a lot at all, right?
Yeah, you were saying that before.
I was. We're parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we.
You're never going to get the picture of him tossing a ball with his kids in the yard. You're never going to get that photo op. You're going to get. That's not the way he was raised. That's not the way he's raising his kids. He's not that parent.
He's not, and we've seen it. If we go across the pond, as they say, you look at Princess Di. She wasn't necessarily raised that way, but she was really into her boys.
Princess Di was raised. Princess Di was a commoner.
Princess Di was a commoner. I'm sorry, her husband wasn't raised that way.
They got photos of them with the kids. They often do. They do those photo ops because they know that's part of the national.
No, but she kind of broke the mold with hanging out with her kids and doing that kind of stuff. And you're a parent. Isn't that what you do?
Yeah, you're saying it as if it's a global, no.
Family first, right?
No.
Otherwise, why have a family? You could just be single.
When you're a narcissist, they become an extension of your identity. So
they do what they want. That's not how that works.
You say that, but
I stand
also
on it.
You could be wrong.
I would love
in his
to
case,
have a clone.
You are actually wrong.
Am I?
Yeah.
Sure?
No, they're all vying for his love and affection in a way that he can't give it because he's broken in his own ways. And this is largely me projecting. Dr. Rich Hall is not speaking in any way as a representative of any psychological or whatever entities. He's just speculating in this conversation. But
what's the disclaimer sound that you need to make?
I usually go into the disclaimer voice. The Hall Space Podcast does not endorse using Dr. Hall's statements as psychological fact, assessment, or otherwise.
Well, so since you've done that disclaimer, let's talk about this. What mental illness does Donald Trump have?
I feel like you keep asking me that. And I
do.
keep just saying narcissism.
There's
narcissistic personality disorder.
There isn't anymore.
That's honestly enough. It's
not,
what we used to call an axis 2, so it's a whole personality thing. There are a variety of things that go into that. He's a narcissist. He is a card-carrying member of the narcissist party. That's just
delusional.
Yeah, the narcissism comes with delusions.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay, because he's posting I got all the votes.
Yeah. You only believe the reality you want to believe. Okay. Because you don't have time for any other realities. Because they do not boost your ego, and you need that ego because you're super insecure, but also very.
So this is really bad for his ego.
This is horrible for his ego. He's having a rough time.
They are celebrating outside.
He's having a rough time right now.
They are celebrating outside.
But because he lacks the ability to self-reflect and truly ask himself what he could have done to have caused this. Once again, it points to the fact that so much of this is because hey, John McCain's home state is where you were, you crapped on that dude, and his home state is one of the people that beat you. What is it? What's the guy, Lewis, the Senator, John Lewis, who died? His state was one of the ones that, ignoring brown people and Latino people and the Puerto Ricans. When you diss all these people, don't be mad when that chicken comes home to roost. When all these people are yeah, we're done with you. And you can run around and tell people that you've done more for black people than anybody else. But when the majority of black people vote against you, I think that means you are wrong. And you should stop saying that bullshit, right? But He's not going to self-reflect. That's not the person he is. He's not going to really step back and ask himself, did he do anything wrong? So we're just going to get what we get from him.
Therein lies the problem. The lack of self-reflection.
But I mean, come on. It's very American. It's very white American, right? If nothing else, he is the face of white America right now. He is all the things white America could tolerate because they were overwhelmingly still willing to vote for him. If you left it up to white America, he would still be president another 4 years.
Yeah, you said something pretty interesting the other day, and just a few moments ago, that if COVID hadn't happened, he would have won this election.
Yeah,
and I tend to believe that. Too many people have died. We're all stuck in the house.
Yeah,
and he's done nothing but ignore it.
What? He closed China. He closed travel to China. He did that one thing the very beginning.
Way after.
He did that one thing in the very beginning.
Because
that's enough.
And then he tried to shut down TikTok. Like, isn't
that enough?
No.
He was the first person who did it. Other people didn't want him to do it, but he's the first person to do it.
He did it too late.
Didn't matter that he did it.
It's
one thing. It's one thing to not let the bed bugs in your house. It's another thing to deal with the bed bugs once they're in your house. Like, if you do no further treatment, then you still got the bed bugs, right?
Richie, what bed bugs?
We're turning the corner on the bed bugs.
What?
We're turning the corner.
Bed bugs.
We're turning the corner.
Where are they?
I'm gonna put it on my website that we've cured bed bugs.
Yeah, I just drank some bleach and I'm fine.
Yeah, well,
I mean, right?
Technically, I have the best doctors in the land, so I'm doing great because I
bet you's not being treated by that doctor in Texas.
No. Interestingly, none of those doctors that did their press conference were involved at Walter Reed Hospital where he was being treated. He instead used other doctors.
And for those who do not know, there is an African doctor in Texas who believes all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, that was the news cycle. It'll be so interesting to go to the new version of America where the news cycle just like if you try to remember all the things that happened during his presidency, you were literally going to like spin out like, oh yeah, I remember that crazy doctor from Texas was believing, in demons and spirits, and also that hydrochloroquine was the answer to solve COVID.
She believed that hydrochloroquine and a number of vitamin supplements
and demon spirits could infect your body via sex. Yeah, all kinds of things.
No. She believed that if you had any women organ issues, it was because of incubus and succubus and all these other kind
demon
of things.
seed. Yeah. So. I mean, those are the type of people that he put ahead. And
hydrochloroquine, just for people who know, is for lupus.
Yeah.
And it can't cure lupus. So why would you think I'm not a doctor?
Because they were at some point trying everything and seeing what would work. And he owned a stake or two in hydrochloroquine production. So it benefited him and his friends. So, yeah, it was funny because my mom and my sister were watching Biden's speech last night. And it was a pretty good speech. I mean, fairly good. It was heartwarming in all the ways that the presidential speeches typically are before they were, crowd, what's the word I'm looking for? Before they were, Trumpified, absolutely. And we tuned out midway through and we just started talking about our own stuff. And I realized later how much we used to take for granted. You'd watch these speeches and you'd get a little bored and you'd start doing your own thing or wander around the house, but you'd keep it all in the background.
Yeah, because
it's just, I miss that. I miss the ability to ignore the president.
He's not saying a whole bunch of crazy things.
He's not constantly triggering you emotionally.
He's not doing anything that's incredibly outlandish.
No.
I watched the whole thing. Kamala came out first. I watched the whole thing just because it's been so long since I've truly watched
the president.
A
president.
A president.
It's been about 4 years.
It's been about. I I can't. But Kamala came out and she did her, her standard thing, and she came out to Mary J. Blige, which was,
nice.
Loved it. And then he came jogging out, which SNL got right. It was also hilarious. If you guys haven't watched the SNL episode, Saturday Night was great.
It was pretty good.
But he had a good, solid sort of humble. I am here. I will work with everybody. I'm everybody's president. He quoted Ecclesiastes and was talking about this is our time to heal. And I pray that it is, because we have had a very, 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 very long year for many reasons. And in this past 4 years, it just feels like it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And so I am prayerful that this is our opportunity to heal and to grow. But it was definitely a standard sort of presidential speech that you could just be like, all right, he's not going to say nothing crazy. I'm good. Yeah. Whereas Trump is like, I mean, when you first started watching what he said, you're like, can you believe it?
Yeah.
This is crazy. It's like watching a car accident or a fire burning or whatever, And then it got to the point where you're like, I can't watch him. He's actually running the country for realsies. And this is just, wow. This is, you get triggered so bad that you're just like, I can't watch him speak.
Yeah.
So I can't watch him speak. I absolutely cannot watch him speak.
Yeah. So many of us kind of tapped out of, watching it because it was like,
can't do that to myself.
I can't. Yeah. I just can't with this.
No,
because it's too much.
It's too much. I'm going to protect my peace.
Too much.
It's too much.
Absolutely.
And honestly, that's not to say that I'm going to watch all of the Biden speeches. One of the things that they were saying post the speech, like, he did a great standard speech,
Yeah, boilerplate.
He's no Obama. I feel like there's more pizzazz there.
Obama definitely had more charisma on the stage. He could definitely bring home a lot of different thoughts and ideas.
He did. And you could see how he got people to really believe and to hope and things like that. And that's not to say, that Biden doesn't also do that. But it's kind of like watching auditions, when you're actors, like there are some people that just kind of really nail it. And then there are some people like, yeah, no, that's pretty square in the box, man. That's pretty standard. And and honestly, that's kind of what we need right now.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like you said earlier, we need a standard sort of middle of the road guy that will just redeem us from this crazy 4 years
of just living on this planet with an abusive gaslighter who continues to lie to you, that other people are not treating as if it's lies, and you're like why are we treating this as if it's normal?
You feel like you're in the Twilight Zone. Like, are you guys serious?
Yeah, which, living in America, there's always been a sense of like, America doesn't see the world the way I do.
No.
I'm always going to have this perspective that's different than the way everybody else seems to see it, and I've just got to learn to live with that. But this has been a whole nother level.
Definitely. It is. Whole nother level. Yeah, it's definitely
like just absurdity.
Yeah.
That within the last 20 years hasn't been normal.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's like, wait, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. And he did so many things that you weren't allowed to do that some of it, like, I'm afraid if any of it becomes normal. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
There's definitely
that there are people after him will do that sometimes
they'll be
America
like, well, Trump
will be like,
did it. Yeah. Well, and honestly, I mean, Trump and you didn't think it was, I don't know that I thought it was possible. I mean, we had a number of Republican presidents. We didn't love Bush long time.
No.
Right? But my goodness, I would have taken a Bush over a Trump.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I mean, so it's like previous presidents have been apathetic to certain things in the African American community, hostile in certain ways that were just socially acceptable at the time.
Yeah.
But this was a person who is abjectly bad for communities that are not his community.
Well,
and that hasn't happened in quite some time.
Well, and the question again always is what he considers his community. And poor white folks, it's not you. Yeah.
But he loved them when they came to his rallies and
middle
cheered
class.
He loved to have them cheer for him. That's where he always believed he should be. That's one of the reasons he stayed president, because they would keep doing rallies for him.
Which
There's never been a president that's done so many rallies.
No, he's not talking to the poor white folks. He's not even talking to the middle class folks. Let's be clear about that.
I mean, he is if you're for him.
No.
He's talking to all the people that are for him.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not going to change your lives.
Are you sure? Because there are many of them that are very upset right now that Biden got elected, because we had the best economy for the last 4 years.
Did we though?
No. But
or are you out of a job right now?
Did. He said that they did, so he believes it, because when Daddy says things, it's true. He reminds people of their dysfunctional father relationship. And he's a strong man who says tough things and makes you feel good. He says he is.
He doesn't even exude that kind of...
To his people, he does.
Nah.
Yeah, he does.
Nah.
They genuinely believe in him as a strong person. He was on WWE. Yeah.
As a weak punk.
Yeah, well... He was the heel, which he's always the heel.
I'm sorry, I don't like.
He is a product of America. A mediocre white person, ascends because of his family connections and family money. Lives in the spotlight all of his life and ascends to the position. I mean, as a long con goes, getting a job where you're going to get paid for the rest of your life, even if it's only a good $400,000 for the rest of your life. I mean, that's not a bad con.
It's not a bad con at all. The money that he gets from the presidency every year after this is throwaway money for him, I'm sure.
He's actually broke. He's cash poor. So at the very least, we just gave him a steady cash injection for whatever idiot venture he wants to go on next. I mean, and he's going to try to ride the wave of this. Like, he's going to be trying to have rallies from now until. And I don't think that even in him losing this, it wasn't, once again, there's a large portion of America that did not reject him. So there are going to be people who still go to rallies, who are still going to push him up as the guy who could have saved them if us liberals and us minorities and brown people would have gotten out of the way.
There are people that he made feel seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though
he was not looking at them. But he said things that made them feel
really
good.
Seeing them.
And so because they wanted to feel good, because they appreciated feeling good.
And here's the thing. I understand wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, right? I do.
As a black woman?
Listen,
do you know what that's like at all?
This is rights. As an African American woman, I get that, right? I want to be seen.
Do you know what it's like to feel marginalized and ignored?
I think I got a little bit of experience.
As if society's passing you by without ever stopping to check and see how you're doing, or whether or not you're going to
underestimating you and your abilities, saying that you slept your way to the top, as opposed to just,
hard work and
being
sacrifice,
a great hard worker,
intelligence, and ability.
Yeah.
What would you really know about that as a woman? As a black woman?
As a black woman.
Yeah.
Like, you can't mistake me, man. But I get that there are people who want to be seen and heard, but what people often want to be seen and heard for differs, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So the people that he's made feel seen and heard are often people who are okay with marginalizing other people as long as they can get ahead.
White America's always believed in racism as a zero-sum game. So anything that you give to someone else would be taking from them.
Which is not true.
Giving these other people rights and abilities, it means I'm losing a job because somebody else is getting a job.
No.
You say that, but I still don't have a job.
No.
So it must be that a brown person took it.
Or like in one of the feeds I was looking at, or people aren't driving as much, so there's not as much oil and gas necessary, so your company is probably going to go down. But
the cost of oil has gone down because of COVID considerably. But so, I mean,
we're also not using as much.
I mean, but so why would I have to? I mean, it's obviously a brown person's fault, because I can't see any other reason why it would happen to me. No,
so it's not COVID. It's not the lack of.
Well, it was. It was the yellow man that brought us COVID.
Okay.
It's the Kung flu. So.
Wow.
There's always someone else to blame rather than stopping and looking at any other circumstance. Its simplest explanation is best. And there's always a brown person that you could just point at and go, this is their fault.
Man, I wish my brain worked that easily. I could just blame somebody.
It'd be so nice, right?
I could just blame stuff on people.
Here's the thing, when we talk about Trump, I don't even blame Trump for the way a certain part of the world has embraced him.
No.
I think he's just a guy who I think Republicans rigged the system in their favor, and he's a guy who hijacked the system because the system wasn't built to lock him out.
Well, he was going to hijack it anyway, and the fact that these people came to support him, he's like, okay, that's where I'm gonna lean. That's where I'm gonna lean.
Yeah, he even said it at some point. He said, if I would ever run, I'd become Republican because it's easy to get those people on your side.
He said it in an interview.
Yeah,
recorded.
Yeah, and nobody stopped.
And still, people saw it, and we're still like, I'm gonna vote for him.
Yeah, because he didn't mean that. It's always, whenever it's something that we're like, hey, he meant that, they're like, he didn't mean that. But when it's something else, he didn't mean it. That's the thing. That's the corner he's painted himself in. And that's what's so interesting about, once again, creating the system where you can't trust the system. Can you? I don't know. Only trust me, don't trust the system. If he were to really try and get these votes thrown out, if he were genuinely trying to do that.
Oh, he's trying to do it.
He would cost the Republican Party their seats because they still got in.
He don't care.
Because it's all about him. It's him over party. It's always been him over party.
He ain't talking to y'all.
But he can't say that the election was stolen from him, but not stolen from Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, who still got in on the strength of their voting base. Just people rejected him.
People rejected him. And
5 million people rejected him.
Right. And he doesn't get that somehow Mitch McConnell was not rejected. Somehow Lindsey Graham was not rejected. We're disappointed in you guys, by the way. Incredibly disappointed. Really, Mitch McConnell? Really, y'all? Seriously?
Lindsey Graham is actually still stomping for him and saying he's going to help raise money for his defense fund. I don't know why the president would ever need a defense fund. My brain is having a hard time wrapping itself around the idea. So that's obviously a scam, right? Just like the Build the Wall fund was a scam. Because if we're doing federal things,
never built that wall.
They actually ran away with that money. Steve Bannon is now under investigation for stealing some of that money on the Build the Wall fund.
There's so many people that are
but anytime the president shouldn't be calling me for money. He gets paid off my tax dollars. He should not be calling me at home to ask for money. And if he is, I'm going to think it's some Van Buren or some oh God, what's that guy's name? Aaron Burr shit, where he's trying to form his own country somewhere, and he needs my money to help him with his scam because he's going to die penniless. The president shouldn't be calling me for money while he's still president.
On an episode of American Greed, man.
Yep. Come on. His entire life is an episode of American Greed.
It absolutely
It'll be so epic when
they actually do that episode, because they probably will.
After all this, when,
I'll watch it.
He's gonna write so many fake executive orders over the next 3 months and try to get all of his stuff withheld because now he's president, which I always thought that becoming president would be bad for him because it meant people would look into his affairs in a way that would mean suddenly they'd be exposed. But in reality, one, nobody cared what the actual issues were that were in his, what his actual coffers looked like. And he did have enough executive privileges that we would protect the office. It's this weird thing where, once again, when you have a bad boss and everybody around you is like, we have to do what the boss says. And you're like, well, this is probably going to be bad for everyone if we do this. And everybody's like, but it's what the boss says, so we have to do it. And you're just watching the company in a week, this is going to be like a 4-alarm fire. But right now, y'all are acting like we just need to do exactly what this dude says, like he couldn't be wrong. And I don't understand it, but I'm going to just sit back and I guess watch the show. And in that way, the office itself protected him and the group of people he built around him. So there are always going to be these people
but they're not. Here's the thing. He's lost the original group around him.
He lost his the people at his not the people at his party. He lost the people who worked with him. His his cabinet is.
But those are his people.
No. I'm saying that his followers, the people who put his name on the back of flags in his trucks. Yeah. There was another tweet that I liked. It's I can't wait for me to not put Biden's name on a hat or on a flag or in my yard because I'm not a weirdo. Because it's never been about the guy. It's always been about the office and the country. And so once again, it's this shift of, if you see an American flag on a yard, I'm now a lot more worried that that person's probably more racist than patriotic, or that patriotism is
because you're supporting
racism.
what America's doing right now. That's what it stands for right now.
Right now, I
mean,
it feels a lot more like people supporting this America rather than
this version of America, rather than what we could really be. Yeah.
I mean, and I'll say, I believe in the American experiment. I believe that at our best, we can do some great things. I believe we have a lot to answer for when it comes to minorities. We have done some
great things. It's.
I believe that we are not sacred.
I mean, we have the ability to do great things. We've done great things, and we've had some setbacks.
We've done some horrible things.
We've done some absolutely horrible things.
Some things we should have to answer for.
There are things that we do have to answer for, but we do that by continuing to make progress, right? Yeah. We do that by trying to ensure that representation matters. We do that by trying to ensure that people can live happily and safely anywhere, right? Yeah. All that stuff is big and important. And not once did he ever exude that type of.
He made them feel seen.
That's it. He made them feel.
And even though, I mean, in the party that calls itself Christian, and even though separation of church and state is baked into the Constitution, we don't want to acknowledge that it shouldn't be a Christian nation. It should be a nation. Under God wasn't even always in the thing, but whatever. We can't get past certain tribal ideas, and so that tribalism is what's holding us down, holding us back as a country. Our whiteness is holding us back. And so I was reading
this. You
can't
just say whiteness, because there are black people that are drinking the Kool-Aid too.
The overwhelming majority that voted for him was white.
No.
The overwhelming majority of America has always supported
women. Go back to
white women and white men. Overwhelming majority of America has always promoted. I mean, at one point, slavery was the nom du jour. Right? That's just what everybody did.
Yeah, no, that's
segregation. What everybody did.
It was law.
Right.
It was legal.
Right.
It was
so
legal.
It's hard to say that America was ever the moral majority. The moral majority of America was right.
Right. And again, it goes back to enacting that change and flipping that script, right? Because it was legal to have slaves. It was legal to have segregated.
Yeah. We've always had inequality.
No. So for people, I think that was the thing that was so incredibly sad about these last 4 years, for people to want to go back to that. Because when people like us, marginalized minorities, when we see Make America Great Again, that's what we see. Yeah.
That's
the kind of America.
Oh, you would like to reverse progress.
You want to go back to.
You want to reverse desegregation.
All of the progress reverse that we've made.
Civil rights. You want to reverse women's rights. You want to reverse health care. You want to reverse retirement and child care. You want to reverse child labor laws.
You want to reverse the ability for a woman to control her own body, to vote, to do things that are should be inherently our rights, right? I mean, it's
America's always wanted to work just for white Americans.
Yeah.
And by and of itself, it believes, even though it espouses this mythology of the melting pot, it believes that so long as you were just to melt down to white, you'd be okay.
Well, and I think the idea of the melting pot is pretty accurate, because they do want you to melt down to that, but
just melt off all the parts of you that make you unpalatable.
Right.
I mean, and once again, I don't believe in this as every white person individually feels that way, but white people as a mass, as a whole, tend to have embraced this election shows there's a majority of them that will embrace.
What'd you say, 71 million?
71 million
yahoos. And
I think I once again I have to check those numbers, but
I think you're right. But I think that I've seen in some of the groups that I have joined that there are a number of those people in there that wholeheartedly believe believe in him still. And there are completely. And there's some of them right now blaming Biden for the fact that they're going to lose their job. Like their company is shutting down.
Oh yeah. Even though we're coming out of the Trump election, he's not even president yet.
Trump is still president. So if your job is closing down,
he's not even president.
It happened under Trump's watch, y'all.
Yeah.
Why is it such a complicated thing to understand? And there are people I saw, and I should not,
because the mythology has been made that he's not responsible. It's the other guy.
No, the other guy hasn't done anything yet. He's not even in office yet, y'all. As a lot of them point out, but there are some that also don't understand math, right?
70,835,588 people said Donald Trump wasn't that bad.
Even though
we'd like to not change horses in midstream.
We would like to do this again.
75 million people said Joe Biden should get a shot at getting us out of the hole we're in.
We're incredibly divided. I would like to know, out of the, I'm going to round up to 71 million. Because I don't remember those numbers after the comma. But I would like to know how many of those people that voted for him, how many of those were voting because they always vote red, no matter what. I would like to know how many of those people voted because they're just racist, right? And they like him.
There's a good percentage of them. So there's going to be a good percentage of people who did and don't even know it, right? Because as we said before, they're not going to have a nuanced understanding of how they'll say out loud, "I'm not racist. I just don't feel comfortable with the white guy and the black girl." I just didn't like this guy.
I just didn't. Yeah.
They will once again point to characterological reasons why,
right,
but not their own character, because they lack the insight to be able to really say. Because ultimately, what you're supposed to be able to understand about yourself is you've grown up in America, a country that was founded on racism, and we look at critical race theory, even though our current president doesn't believe in it. It's the idea that within us is baked a little bit of racism, just a tiny amount, and whether or not we decide to flourish that and grow it, then it will manifest in our lives. And so it is likely that you will behave in racially biased ways because you are a biased creature, and it's hard to escape.
Well, I mean, and again, you have to think about the group of people that voted for him that are completely unaffected by the things that minorities and women
experience, have no understanding.
Right. If you live in the middle of nowhere on a farm and you're self-sufficient for the most part, then your vote is going to be different. I'm going to venture to say, right?
Yeah. It's very likely you're going to vote red.
It's very likely that you're going to vote red
because you don't understand the need for all these things that the brown people ask for.
Right. No matter who is the guy that's running as red, right? So I think that's part of it. But then I also think that there are a ton of Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And those are the scary ones.
Well, they're scary because they're wild cards. You don't know what they're going to say.
They're the scary ones.
Yeah.
The apathetic ones, okay. You're probably always going to be apathetic because what happens to others that don't happen to you, you're never going to understand, and you're not interested in
and apathy is, to me, apathy is sort of the real American disease, is apathy for the fellow man. And that's not, that's where we are now. We're so divided. I don't think that's necessarily where we've always been, but we've always had too much of it in the system.
There's definitely too much of it in the system.
Yeah.
Because if you look at those babies in the cages, literally, and Ra keeps asking about them.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're actual babies in cages. Why?
Well, some of them are in foster care. Some of them are kept in like a jail-like setting.
They should never
tragic.
Have been in
for no other reason other
setting.
than they were just born on the wrong side of a line.
Yeah, which is unfair.
What do you want to do? Just let them all in? Well,
if they work, what do I care?
We probably shouldn't have separated.
If they don't work, what do I care?
If we didn't have a way.
If you didn't have why are you separating them from their parents? Why aren't you
teach their parents not to come to the country?
If you're going to deport people, deport them all.
Deport them with their kids.
Don't separate. That it's worse. It's worse to separate them. I don't care if they get.
Well,
deported.
Obama did it. Right. Obama did it.
They're claiming that Obama did a number of things.
Here's the thing: I wouldn't think it was right if he did it either.
No.
And he didn't. He didn't make it the standard policy.
He did not. He did not have marshals going into neighborhoods, dragging people out of their houses.
He did more deportations than the previous president did, but
Either way, I think it's wrong. So I'd be against him doing it just as much as I'm against this guy doing it.
Yeah, no. And I don't want Biden and Harris to do it. That's
right.
That's a fact.
Right.
That's an absolute.
Right.
Get those babies home.
Right.
Okay, and don't give them to random foster parents.
Right. And then lose them in the system.
And then lose them in the system.
Which is horrible. That's how you create a long-term problem for yourself.
You created that problem. You lost them because you wanted to keep them all together because they came across the border for a better life.
The Nigerian proverb says, the boy who is not raised by the village will delight in
burn
burning
it down to feel its warmth. Absolutely.
Right. Yep. And so America, we've created a lot of little villageless boys.
We started the country that way.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean.
And I guess turning away from it, trying to ignore it, doesn't. Once again, you lack the self-reflection to be able to stop and say, "Okay, I did this. I need to fix it."
In that defense, let's think about it from that perspective. Your culture, what you've benefited from, has been responsible for the slavery, the bringing down of minorities and Native Americans and whatnot.
I mean, white people have always voted against retirement, education, childcare. Like, it wasn't if it meant that a brown person was going to get ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea that there are people who see that historically there have been things that happened that you weren't necessarily responsible for, but has happened and you've benefited from, that could be overwhelming, right?
As an idea, yes. Once again, I understand that not everybody has spent 20 years of their life studying race and racism and all of that. And so it's a shock to the system to learn you've been complicit. And it's so much easier to just,
even if
buy something new off of Amazon rather than focus on the fact that you've done something horrible to groups and groups of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's overwhelming. And then with being overwhelmed, I would imagine that it would be, what can you even do, right? I mean, that's the next step of thought, and you got to honestly think that there are people that are just not in the position to think that way, right?
You'd hope.
But then there are other people that are just like, don't care.
Apparently, there is some truth in the fact that the young don't want to follow in their parents' footsteps. We'll see. There are many young people who do completely drink the Kool-Aid here, and then there are many who believe that this could be different. And we'll just have to hope that they'll keep growing and changing. I think we've seen that. Changing America.
I think we've seen that. I think, when you think about the progressives who voted for Biden, you see them enacting change. You see them, in the streets when an injustice happens. The change is enacted by the young, right? And I'm incredibly proud of that, because they are willing to get down and dirty and in the streets to ensure that their voices are heard. And that's incredibly important. And it is how change is enacted. So yeah, they do, one of the things that they were talking about on CNN was that there are a lot of, families that are divided as far as the politics go. And a lot of the kids, with their families, they've got their old school way of thought, and then a lot of kids disowning their parents. They're having those hard conversations. Yeah,
which I appreciate,
and they're willing to have those hard conversations, which is incredibly important, because honestly, when you raise your kids, you want them to be independent thinkers, and you want them to stand strong in what they believe. Much to a lot of parents' chagrin, maybe different from what you believe, but you support them and you love them, hopefully, in spite of that. So yeah, there are a lot of old school parents that are seeing their children progressive and fighting for change, and it's great to see. So I
maybe the kids will be all right.
Yeah, maybe the kids will be all right.
Maybe
I think that
maybe it truly is a brand new day, and this next generation will, as every generation did before, save us from ourselves.
Yes.
So
yes.
I had a feeling this episode was going to be called The Brand New Day, because I've been hearing that being played on Instagram and a few TikToks.
Brand new day.
Right. Because
welcome to the brand new day.
Yeah.
You haven't seen The Wiz, man.
Yeah. But is this definitely an Evelina
oh man,
getting washed away kind of situation? We
what a world. Yeah.
Right.
No. Don't bring her no bad news. She got washed up.
Yeah.
And goodbye. Also, there are 2 versions of The Wiz, y'all. Check out the original version with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, and then there's the new version that has Queen Latifah.
The
Common
NBC
and
live
Neo
version.
And No, I'm a big Wiz fan. It's
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely feel like we're in a brand new day, and it's a new opportunity for us to roll our sleeves back, get some work done. As I've said before, I feel like that was where Obama felt like things fell down. Everybody got him to the office, and then they kind of went back to their lives and was like, okay, you handle everything. He still needed those coalitions of people.
You still need
to continue. And I think
you
if
still
nothing
need to
else,
work to go on. Yeah.
Trump has mobilized a lot of people to do a lot of good, as we saw in Georgia with Stacey Abrams and all of those people like her. That this is probably going to be a new time. Yeah,
flipped
absolutely.
Georgia, man.
Absolutely.
God bless her, man. She lost, but she did the work.
So there's a very good chance there's going to be some new people because of people like her and new activism.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of like she lost, and she said she sat Shiva for 10 days, and then she got back to work. And that's the kind of people that we need to really enact change, to say, okay, well, I didn't get where I wanted to, or
we need to lift them up.
We need to lift them up. We need to give them the support they need, because they're the ones in the trenches going out there and really.
I always thought it was interesting that there's a lot of people who they lose, they like Tim Kaine. Everybody forgets that he was the guy who was Hillary's running mate, or Howard Dean. He was up, or Kerry. There's all these people who run for president and they think they want the highest job in the land, and then they don't get it, and then they disappear.
And then and
it's like, well, what's supposed to happen? What's supposed to happen after you lose that job?
What was it that you wanted to happen?
Yeah.
As a part of that position,
and I feel like that could still be right, because you could still do a lot of good with the platform you've created, getting that high up and that much attention on you.
Absolutely.
If you're really about it, or if you just want the job. Then then I think get that too, I guess.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's about, like, people want the position, but then they forget that they could still enact change by getting the work done.
That there's still work to be done.
There's still work to be done, and you can get that work done if that's really what you're wanting to do.
If that's what you're about.
I don't want to make it about me, but I lost student government president, but I still worked really hard because it was important that our senior year that we had a good relationship with the neighborhood of Clifton, so that we could be able to go to these stores and not have issues with the store owners and all that kind of, like, that stuff is important. And so if there's somebody that you want to be, you should want to be like a Stacey Abrams, and especially if that's what you're getting into.
And failure can teach you a lot too.
Well, yeah.
So
it's about that time.
It's about that time. It's been great catching up with everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Hall Space Podcast. Congratulations to President-elect Biden. Yes.
Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. We're so incredibly excited to see what they'll do in the coming years. You know what the music means. Our time is up. I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hall Space Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found at our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.wordpress.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspacepodcast@gmail.com. The show is written by Dagger Penn Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. House Hall. We rise brilliantly.